Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and today we're at the Blant Bench with another victim of the moving company. Some people pronounce it Modoline, some pronounce it Modoline. In any case, the company was founded in 1946 by John and Mary Ann Props. And over the years, they had several different designers, and they made some very desirable mid-century modern lamps. The company finally closed in 1981. Now this one is wood. It's called their geometric design, and an ebonized finish over it. And these two balls in here hang on the beaded chain. And in original condition, you would reach in here and pull on this to turn the lamp on and off. And somehow, in the last move, this thing got in a bind, and this is bent, and the neck is broken off. So we'll have to take this apart and see what we can do about this. We're going to start this job with a clean bench pad to protect this finish, because it's probably not very thick. Now this must be a very stout socket because the pipe broke off inside the neck. The insulation is actually cut through here, but I'll be replacing it anyway. Nobody really needs a 60-year-old lamp cord. That is not working. I'll turn it around, see if I can make some progress from the other end. This is a special lab designed tool. Usually you get a little bit more pipe to grab a hold of. Hoping I could get this nut loose. Let's turn it a little bit. There we go. Now we get to see how many pieces this thing is made of. Well, there's your problem. We've got some kind of glue or thread sealer on here. That may be a later repair attempt to keep the socket from twisting or something like that. I really don't know. I've never seen this kind of stuff used on lights from the 60s, that's for sure. It does make it a little difficult to get this nut off. See what we can do with this stuff. Usually you heat it up a little bit, let it cool off, and a wire brush will crumble away. And try not to inhale while you're doing this, because whatever this stuff is, the fumes can't be good for you. Now I've got the saddle and all the nuts off of it. And problem I'm facing now, this pipe is aluminum. Aluminum does tend to be a little brittle, and although it might bend some, it rarely bends twice. So what I've got to try and do here is take enough of this kink out so that it will pass through this top, and I can decide what I'm going to do with it. It would seem that a device made for bending pipe ought to be able to straighten it. So we'll find out. I'll put a Sharpie mark down the back of this, marking the inside of this bend. And this is strictly an experiment. I have no idea if it's actually going to work. I think it will. But I just want to be very gentle. And the worst part is I've got to go a little bit past the bend because it's going to spring back just a hair. Well, that's not perfectly straight, but it will be covered up by the tube. And I've got to deal with the problem of the fact that this thing is now just a little short. The next issue is the socket. It was damaged in the accident. Either something came down on top of the lamp and broke this off, or more likely the lamp was up someplace high, turned over, and hit the ground like that. Now this is a socket made by McGill Incorporated for their lavalier line. It's a design that goes back to the early 20th century. In fact, a pull chain switch like this at one time was generally known as a lavalier switch. The shell is a phenolic resin plastic. That was the replacement for Bakelite, which turned out to be too brittle for this kind of work. And that's certainly a good thing, considering what happened here. This little brass bushing down at the bottom was actually shoved up in here so tightly that I couldn't get that screw out. And I thought this was going to be just junk. But I was able to actually use a wooden dowel to tap it back down. It seems nice and secure, and the screw came out. And now I'm left with that little piece of broken off aluminum pipe in the bottom here. And that's what I've got to figure out how to get out without doing any more damage to it. Now the next problem is how to hold on to this thing. For that I have an obsolete plumber's tool. This clamp is made for holding copper pipe while you flare the end, something that probably nobody has done for about 60 or 70 years. And that should give me a good grip on it. And I have a modified hacksaw blade and a shop-made tool that I will try to cut a slot on the inside, and then very carefully with a small chisel try to work it out. That is what we call Plan A. Sometimes Plan A is all you need. Now, of course, when you break a piece of pipe off, you can expect there not to be enough left over to put it all back together. The first thing I want to do is clean up this tip and try to restore the threads without ruining the old ones. Now, I have no idea what this tool is for, what it's intended to be used for, but it works great for slightly beveling the edge of the pipe before I put the tap on it. Now the question is, do we have enough threads for the socket to grab a hold of? And if this were a steel pipe, that would actually be enough. But this is aluminum, and when that little screw drives down into the aluminum, it's just going to crush it slightly, and in this case, just peel over, and it's not going to hold. So I've got to figure out some way to get this thing down a little further. Fortunately, there is a solution, as there's no rule that says this little piece of tubing here over the pipe has to be that tall. I can shorten it slightly, and that'll gain me just enough for that socket to grab in. Fortunately, it's a short walk to the lab's CAB machine shop. Now, when I was cutting the threads on the pipe, I went a little extra because I was actually expecting to have to do this. Now, a pro tip, if you've got a socket that has a little set screw in the neck, always make sure it's installed before you put the socket on, because it's really difficult to get it up in there after you've got it together. But the reason it's there is because this particular socket has to face the back, because that's where the chain and the switch are going to be. Now that every crisis has been dealt with, we come to the fun part, which is wiring it. I'm going to put a cord bushing here to protect it where it goes through that pipe. That's the sort of thing that was left off back in the 60s when this was made. And when I'm down here, I'm going to put a knot in the cord, because that's going to be my protection of the cord being yanked out from underneath the screw terminals in the case someone were to trip over this in the dark. I'm using an 8-foot cord set. What that means, it's a piece of lamp cord with a molded plug on one end, and the other end, the ends are tinned, which that means that this multi-stranded wire has got a drop of solder on the tip of each, which turns all those multi-strands into one wire. Because the National Electrical Code specifies that stranded wire cannot be put underneath screw terminals. Now, that may be a fairly recent development, because we can see this originally wired back in 1960 lamp. They didn't do that. What we'll also see is this lamp cord has one side is smooth, one side has ridges. The reason for that is so you can identify which screw you're going to put it to. Have a silver screw and a brass colored screw. And the screw with the ridges always goes under the silver screw. Wrap it around clockwise so that it pulls it down tight when it goes in. I get the other one in here like this. Tighten it down. And I can pull the other end of the cord, get this snug down in here. Screw this down on top. We're just about done here. Now the last thing we've got to do is get the chain hooked back up to the switch. And there's a couple of clever ways to do this. I'm going to try one that's always worked in the past, which is use a drinking straw when you've got to get through multiple holes in a row and you can't see them very well. And just a piece of stiff pipe with a hook on the end of it. grab a hold of this. See if we can pull it up through. What I want to do is get the straw off without dropping the chain back through the hole. And the little coupler is still up here. Oh, there we go. Well, that's disappointing to say the least. Well, I've tried another bulb. That didn't make any difference. And despite this nice crisp click, which usually indicates that a pull chain switch is in good condition, this one is simply not functioning. And that's a real shame, because experience has taught me this particular pull chain socket interior is not available new or used for love or money. And your Leviton with this large horn right here won't fit down in here. However, I'm undeterred, because I have one that I have done some judicious filing on the shell and on the horn as well, and now it slides down in there very nicely. All I got to do is wire it up, and we'll see if we can get this lamp to work again. Well, that's certainly better. I think the only real reason I wanted to keep a 50-year-old switch, which is certainly against standard practice in the secret underground laboratory, is that not only is it unique, but it matched this shell, and it was part of the original design of this lamp. However, a lamp that doesn't work is not really a lamp at all. It becomes a piece of sculpture or something like that. And how many people want to keep a non-working lamp on their end table, no matter how impressive it is or how well it fits with their decor? So, with a little bit of lab magic and ingenuity, we're able to keep this very nice mid-century modern lamp working, and I'm sure the customer will be very happy with it. So, this is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage. Thank you for sitting all the way through this video. We'd really appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. I do answer all questions, respond to all comments, whether it's on lighting, history of lighting, furniture repair, any sort of thing like that. Happy to help. Please ask if you need it. So, again, thank you for watching.